Hello everyone, my name is Amy McNaughton. I work for Public Health Wales, where I lead a programme of work focused on the first 1,000 days and improving early child development outcomes. And I wanted to talk today about a practical example of collaborating to try and change policy and practice through our work developing an early years framework for action. So, as you are probably aware, health and education are devolved in Wales, and this has enabled a significant policy focus on the early years. And some real successes in this space have included enshrining the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child in law, the development of the Future Generation Act, which requires public bodies to think about long-term impacts of the decisions that we make today. And Wales has also protected a child's right to play through the play sufficiency duty. However, good policy needs to be well implemented to have a positive impact. And unfortunately, the outcomes we see for babies, young children and their families in Wales still falls below the ambition set out in our policy frameworks. Too many children in Wales are growing up in poverty, and there are significant inequalities in children's readiness to learn when they start school. We also know that services that support families in the early years are struggling, with around 62,000 health visitor contacts missed in the last reporting year, representing around a quarter of all planned contacts. Having spoken to people across the early years system in Wales, we identified that there was currently a gap between our policy ambition and the ways in which that ambition was enabled and implemented in practice. And this gap was allowing poorer outcomes to persist and driving inequalities. So we wanted to help develop a framework that could address this by creating a structured approach to better understand these gaps and facilitate the identification of shared priorities and more coordinated action. And we started the work by creating a shared understanding of what the best start in life means to us in Wales, because it's a phrase that's used a lot, but it lacks specificity and was at risk of becoming slightly piecemeal. We also wanted to improve understanding of the breadth of factors that influence outcomes in the early years and the role we all have across society in supporting babies, young children and their families. Ultimately, we wanted to help shift the system towards action, setting a clear vision of what good looks like in relation to each of the building blocks and describing what needs to be in place at local, regional and national level for that vision to be achieved. One of our wider objectives with the work was to galvanise people working in the early years in Wales around the framework, building a movement across policy, practitioners, the third sector, academia and families. This meant the process of developing the framework was just as important, if not more so, than the specific actions that are within it. Because without the engagement and ownership of the framework, the chances of it leading to the changes that we aspired to would always be limited. And what this approach meant in practice was a lot of engagement. So overall, the process from our first meeting to signing off the document took almost exactly 12 months. And in total, around 200 people with experience at the early years system in Wales have fed into the framework's development through either workshops, parental engagement activities, and stakeholder consultation. But before I speak about the impact of the collaborative approach to date, I wanted to share some of the detail within the framework to bring it to life for you. This is our shared understanding of the best start in life. It was seen as the vital first step in the development of the framework, as it was essential to describe what we all saw the framework seeking to achieve. This infographic shows the building blocks of an effective system that was identified by our stakeholders. And it contains 3 cost-cutting foundation stones, which run along the bottom, describing the beliefs, goals, and structures that are the foundation of an effective system. It also contains 7 thematic building blocks running across the top of the image. These detail the specific elements of the system that matter most for babies, young children, and their families, directly influencing their day-to-day lives and outcomes. And when all of these building blocks come together, families can create the nurturing relationships and experiences babies need to have the best start in life, irrespective of the challenges they may face. However, when any of them are missing, inequalities and outcomes can arise. And the range of building blocks within the framework helps illustrate why collaborative approaches are key, because so many people have a role to play in supporting building a society that enables all babies to get the best start in life. And this slide just illustrates the detail that falls out of each of the building blocks within the framework document, using one of our cross-cutting foundation stones as an example. So each block starts with a vision of what good looks like, followed by what needs to be in place to enable that vision to be achieved, broken down by local, regional and national activities. And breaking the activities down in this way has helped create a framework that can better enable anyone working in the early years to see their role and contribute to strengthening the system. So, as we look towards publishing the framework, the journey is in many ways only just beginning, but we're already seeing the benefits of having taken a collaborative approach to its development. One simple but significant impact of our approach is that it's organically created a situation where lots of people are talking about the work. So it's raising the work's profile, but it's also raising the profile of the early years in general. Over the coming year, following publication, we'll be delivering a series of events to promote the framework. And having worked collaboratively in its development, we're also looking at how we can deliver these events jointly in partnership with other organisations. And we hope that will help to continue to build momentum across the system. The collaborative approach we've taken is also helping with raising the profile of early years policy and practice as we look towards the Senedd elections taking place in 2026. The Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health in Wales have included a call in their manifesto for the framework to be implemented. And in turn, Public Health Wales is looking at how it will build the framework into its own advocacy activities. We've also been able to benefit from soft and indirect influence because a number of people involved in the framework's development have strong direct links into ministers across Welsh Government and are able to advocate for the approaches it sets out in relation to their own priority building blocks within the framework, but they'll also reference back to the collective resource. And finally, as we look forwards, we're having some really positive conversations with colleagues across Welsh Government about agreeing an approach to implementation that aligns with their ambition and priorities. And that represents a real win for us because when we started the project, it was quite a system disrupting approach led by Public Health. And it potentially raised a few initial concerns among policy colleagues about what it might include and how it might be communicated. But we found that having maintained open lines of communication throughout the project and helping colleagues in policy areas see how the framework can support their agendas has been really key to bringing them on that journey. However, we know we've still got a long way to go, and we're really keen to see where we go next with the framework working together. Thank you.